things about culture. In Japan, they don't hug. And shaking hands is also weird. So the only people that really shake hands in Japan, I feel like, are members, church members, because the missionaries always shake their hands, and so they do. But I loved giving people hugs in Japan. Of course, I only hugged women, but I like loved it because they don't experience that, and they love it, but it's so foreign to them at the same time. So that was something that was fun. Something that was really interesting to me about, like, I don't know if this is so much culture, but I guess in Japan they don't really have public garbage cans. They kind of have them at convenience stores, but that's like the only place you'll find a public garbage can. All Japanese people are expected to take their own trash home and throw the trash away. Of course, at a restaurant, like, they'll throw your trash away, but like, you won't find trash cans on the street that you can just throw something away. And it is so clean. The streets are so clean. At least where I served, the streets were always so clean. It's just really cool that the Japanese people take that responsibility. Oh, and also on the topic of trash, they separate their trash, which was really hard to get used to, especially because the chart that tells you how to do it is in kanji. And I didn't know kanji. I still don't really know kanji. Like, but they'll separate it into combustibles, non-combustibles, jars, cans, metals. Like, they have it, and in some places they get even more specific. And each one has a special bag, and each city has a special bag. So, like, if I live in Okamachi and I use a bag for sendi instead, they won't take the trash. I have to get an Okamachi bag, and it has to be for combustibles, and I have to get an Okamachi bag for recycle. Like, it's just very particular. And there's a specific day. So, like, Mondays you take out combustibles, Tuesdays you take out like bottles or recyclables, plastics and bottles are separate. And then on, like, the third Wednesday of every month you can take out cans, and on the fourth, like, it's just very. And then, like, a few times a year they'll have, like, big items, so, like, you can take out old broken fans or, like, vacuums or microwave, like, bigger things that have broken, and you just take them out on that day. And that also varies by city. I think in the more urban areas, it's a lot more particular. If you go out more to, like, the rural areas, it's really lax. Like, when I was in Oshima, we just threw all the trash in the same bag, and it was fine. But when I was in Okamachi, it was very particular. I remember when I was in the city, we went grocery shopping one preparation day, and I just was caught, like, it was really amusing to me. I realized that there wasn't a parking lot for cars. There was a parking lot for bikes, like bicycles. Like, they literally had, like, spots for, like, bicycle size spots, and there were no car spots because everyone in Japan walks or rides their bike or takes the train. And when you go out to the rural areas, people use cars more, but still most people take the train or bike or walk. Most people bike. And that was just so different to me. And then I got used to it, and now I really, really miss my bike, and I miss biking everywhere, and I need to get a bike. But, so that was another thing that was interesting. And then along with that, you'll often see kids, like, even younger than 5-year-old kids, just walking around alone, or, like, with their friends. Like, you'll see, like, 3 5-year-olds on a bike riding around the city, or just, and you're like, where are your parents? Like, because they're not, like, in their neighborhood, they're not near their home, they're, like, going, or you'll see them on the train. You'll see, like, a small group of young kids on the train. They're just very independent and but it's also due to the fact that Japanese culture just has so much respect for children, and so they're very safe, and it's a very much, like, the community, like, takes care of the kids. Yeah, so that was also really weird for me. Like, I don't think I went anywhere by myself until I was like older. And then it would be like my mom drives me somewhere and drops me off with another adult. Or like I don't know, it was just so weird, so different, but so fun. The little kids.
I love the Japanese culture because it's just how respectful they are to other people. And their whole language is based around like politeness. There's different ways of speaking to people based on how polite you want to be. And I feel like in other languages they have like a normal level and like a polite level. But in Japanese there's like several levels of how polite you want to be to the person. And I've always thought that was pretty cool because you can show respect with your language in Japanese more than any other language. And we don't really have that in English. And they're super respectful to their ancestors and their elders, and they really, revere the past and the traditional ways of Japan. Another thing they do is they don't really handshake that much. They always bow, like a nice short bow, like this, and that's how they greet each other. I've always thought that was kind of cool too. When you eat, you always eat with chopsticks. Americans don't use chopsticks very much. The Japanese use chopsticks a lot. And when you eat things, it's okay to make noise. It's actually like considered polite because it's like delicious to you, so you just want to eat all of it and make lots of noise. Where in America, that's something totally rude, right? To like burp or to make lots of noise when you're eating your food or to like chew with your mouth open, but it's not that bad in Japan. Another thing that's funny about Japan that's like different from America and what we think would be kind of weird is they're really germaphobes. And so when you're sick, you wear like one of those construction masks to like cover your face from chemicals. They all wear that when they're sick so that they don't spread germs to everybody. And so during the wintertime when everyone's sick, you'll get on the train and everyone will just have like this white mask on. You can't see their faces and it's kind of weird. But they're really polite about that kind of thing too. Not trying to like get other people sick. They're always caring about other people, which I think is pretty cool.
Some of the things that I loved about the culture include the formalities. They're very polite and formal, and the language has what's called honorifics, where they place importance on people and things based on how they speak, and they show different levels of respect through their language. So it's a really interesting language and interesting culture. The food is very interesting. Of course, they have sushi. They have different types of sashimi and rice and fish. We were fed quite a bit by the members. In Japan, the main religion is Bukkyo, which is ancestor worship. And when we were in the MTC and we learned about the commitment pattern, one of the things we learned was to build on common beliefs. So we would use the religion that was the main religion of the land, which is the Bukkyo. That means ancestor worship, also known as Buddhism. And we would say, well, we also respect our elders. In fact, we like to do baptisms for the dead, and we would explain how we also very much respect our ancestors. And they would really like that, and we would build on common beliefs that way. And we would earn a relationship of trust with them that way. In Japan, they do like to wear their kimonos for very formal occasions. If you would like to buy a kimono, you could buy one, or even you can buy a simple version and even a very more elaborate version when you go there. They traditionally only wear them for a very formal occasion, but it's not something they wear on a daily basis.
So I guess I'll start. Japan, at least the part of Japan I was in, it's really hot during the summer, cold during the winter, really humid. And there's lots of people there. It's a big city, the entire mission. Most of the people work 5, 6 days a week. They're really hard workers, really kind people as well. Most people ride trains everywhere they go because it's kind of hard to drive a car in the city, and a lot of people don't have licenses. So they're really genuine people, though, really kind to even missionaries. Never had a problem with anyone. Really nice group of people. As far as day-to-day life goes, they don't live like Americans do. We have lots of space. We drive our cars. We have huge roads and big houses. A lot of them live in apartments, kind of stacked on top of each other. So they're pretty humble people as well. Yeah, I didn't have a whole lot of pride, didn't see a lot of pride in them. They're proud of what they do, and they do what they do right, if that makes sense. They want to work hard, and they want to make sure everything's done correctly. With that said, there's also a deep cultural background in Tokyo, in Japan. The cool thing about Tokyo area is that they have the new side. They have like the city and all the technology and the trains and all that fancy stuff you see on TV. And then they have the historic background as well. They have like Japanese women that will wear kimonos, and they've got festivals that celebrate some of the cultural beliefs and the rich history they have there. So my areas are spread up between a few prefectures. I was actually in Tokyo, Saitama, and Kanagawa. The only one I didn't go to is Yamanashi. Yeah, so my areas were spread up. As far as like crime and safety goes in Japan, it's a really safe country. They don't have a high crime rate at all. I think it's actually currently rated, it has the lowest murder rate in the world, I think. Yeah, I've actually had an experience. I lost my wallet in Japan. It had like, I just took out all of my missionary money, my MSF for the month, and I had like $300 in there, or the equivalent of $300. And I lost it all. But someone just found it and took it to a store. Like, usually they won't even pick up something if it's lost. They just don't touch it. And they wait for whoever lost it to come back and find it themselves. You'll see it on trains sometimes. People leave their phones, but no one touches the phone. It sits on the seat until like the train reaches its last stop, and then a conductor will come through and pick it up. So around here, like, food's a little cheap. In Japan, it's pretty expensive. Shopping, it's kind of a market. I mean, most places I shopped are like a market style, but they also have regular grocery stores as well. Yeah, really good bakeries too. Whenever you go into a store, there's usually a bakery there that has awesome bread. Shopping is a little bit more expensive. The food is usually smaller portioned and it costs more than we would expect here, but that's just kind of how it is. Really healthy people over there. Cool places to see. There's a lot of cool places to see in Japan. I think a big one is Mount Fuji. And then, I mean, a lot of people go to like Kyoto and stuff like that, but I actually like, I'm drawing a blank right now. Give me a minute. And Oshima, it's a little island that's in the Kanagawa prefecture. And then really close to it, there's a place called Kamakura, which is the old capital of Japan. Really cool places to see if you ever get a chance to tour around there. They have a rainy season, typhoon season, lots of water, lots of rain. And then during the summer, it's pretty hot. I mean, when it rains, it's really kind of, it's just rainy weather, really moist. And then during the winter, it's humid and cold. So it kind of pierces you, gets inside your coat. But the weather's not extreme to the point where you can't do missionary work or can't enjoy it. It's not terrible weather conditions ever, unless there's a typhoon. So as a missionary, I didn't really get involved in government in Japan very much, so I don't know a whole lot about it. But during the election, there's cars. I mean, elections run a long time in Japan, and there's cars that'll drive around with speakers on them, and they blast like propaganda. They talk about what their candidate supports, and it's really loud, and you can hear them running like all over the city all day. So during election season, you definitely know, who's running. You can't miss it. And then as far as schooling goes, they have school uniforms in Japan. Everyone's required to wear them. If you've ever seen like any renderings or like Japanese cartoons, you'll probably see the uniform that they're required to wear. Most boys wear like a suit with a red tie. Some private schools have different colors, but they wear a suit and a tie, and then girls wear skirts and tops. It's really formal looking clothing. And then, yeah, schools all ran publicly, except for private schools, but just like the United States in that sense, it's like a publicly run schools. The schools don't look the same as they do here. Just because the way Japan is set up, they don't have the luxury of having like lawns and grass and stuff like that. So you'll see like soccer fields at the school, but it's dirt instead of grass. And then they've got regular playground equipment, and all the kids are generally really well behaved. As far as work goes, like the work lifestyle of Japanese people, they have it pretty rough. They work really hard, most of them 6 days a week, 5-6 days a week, and they're usually gone from like early in the morning when it's dark to late at night when it's dark. Because a lot of people have to commute a few hours. On top of that, you have to commute a few hours to get to and from your place of work. just because you're taking trains and like you don't have a car that can drive back and forth. So they work really hard, and it strains some people. And the cool thing is, as a missionary, you can see how that, like, the gospel can help relieve stress on people, even when they're working that intense. I mean, that much. So they use the N in Japan, and the easiest way to think about it is like if you picture a penny, it'd be like saying, this candy bar costs 120 pennies. Costs 120 yen. Costs 120 yen. So everything's like kind of in the N system, or the penny system. And most of their money is coin, not Tinder. It's not cash. So the main bills you'll use is like 1,000 yen, 5,000 yen, and 10,000 yen. Yeah. And that's like the equivalent to a $100 bill, $50 bill, $10 bill. And they also have like 2,000 yen, which is like a $20 bill, but you don't see those a whole lot. Most of you deal mostly in coins.